Yeah, I'll react to that, sure.
I have a theory. Hi guys, how are you? Sorry, manners. Hello.
Yeah, I'll react to that,
Oh, you will?
sure.
Thanks, man. That's my other video. So the original link to the video, top of the description, below that link to the Discord. Love to have you. I think that the reason so many British people are, so many bad guys in American movies are British is because your accent automatically makes you sound so much smarter than an American to an American. So I think that might be one thing. And I think a smarter villain is a scarier, more threatening villain. Yeah, I don't. Part of me wants to say maybe it goes back to the revolution. And I mean, we have Russian bad guys too, a lot, probably because of the Cold War and stuff. Rambo 3, where America goes and helps Afghanistan, the Mujahideen, defeat the evil Russians. And then the United States and Afghanistan lived happily ever after, forever. It's a lie. Didn't happen. It's actually kind of hilarious to watch Rambo 3 nowadays because it's just like, oh God, this didn't age well. Anyways, let's go. Dr. Geoff Lindsay, love this guy. I only seen one video of his, but it was awesome. And let's get started. I said all the things, the original link, top description, Discord link. Would love to have you. Let's go.
My previous video looked at how native English speakers differentiate these words by weakening the positive, and how the negative is pronounced strongly in different ways by Brits and Americans. Through the comments, I learned that this is highlighted in the new Guardians of the Galaxy film, where the British accented bad guy corrects the good American accented underdog, or under raccoon.
The utopia can't have its denizens murder one another, can it?
It can't.
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 Now, the film's director, in what I think is a genuine tweet, says that the villain is only correcting the final S that Rocket habitually adds to the ends of words.
It can't.
And it may be that the scene was written without any thought of the vowel difference.
I'm not a Marvel fan.
But it's clear that audiences are picking up on it.
Sorry, I gotta listen to him. Just
It can't.
And it may be that the scene was written without any thought of the vowel difference. But it's clear that audiences are picking up on it. So I thought it might be a good time to look at the Hollywood convention of British accented villains.
Have you ever noticed how in Hollywood movies all the villains are played by Brits?
Maybe we just sound right.
Yeah, that is the reason.
Like power.
And we all drive Jaguars.
Oh, yes.
Jaguar?
It's good to be bad.
I don't know
Certainly
why,
a
guys. I just didn't like this guy. Is it Tom Hiddleston? Tom. I just didn't like him at first for no reason. I just say, I don't like him. And every single time I've seen a video of him, like talking as a person, he seems like such a cool guy. Like, I've seen him on the Graham Norton show and stuff like that, and now I love him. I don't...
Power.
And we all drive Jaguars.
Oh, yes.
Jaguars.
It's good to be bad.
There's certainly a good deal of truth
Yeah.
in the idea. Many Hollywood villains have been played by Brits.
There are other means of persuasion besides killing and threatening to kill.
My secretary is a great admirer of your methods, Mr. Kaplan.
Then you should also know that everyone runs from
What's his name? Shere Khan?
Shere Khan.
Oh my god. Terrifying lion.
Mr. Kaplan.
Or tiger, sorry. What a great
You
voice.
should also know that everyone runs from Shere Khan.
I answer only to the president, and he will answer to me.
War has begun.
Excellent. Everything is going as planned.
Oh, yes, I remember. This is just the way your father looked before he died.
And by Americans doing British accents.
I am your master now.
I am your master now.
Ruin my morning.
Then there are accents that are
If you would like, I could talk like this. No. Yes, darling. Well, what do... I can't. If you would prefer, I can talk like this.
more
Sorry.
ruin my morning.
Then there are accents that are more British than anything else.
No one cared who I was till I put on the mask.
Or decidedly British-ish.
You have failed me for the last time.
So if it's true, why is this? You can find the question all over the internet. Perhaps the answer that people reach for most readily is colonial history, a lingering grudge held by Americans against the old British overlords, who were the bad guys in the bloody struggle that led to the founding of the Great Republic. Americans are, of course, taught their colonial and revolutionary history, in which, like the heroes of so many stories, the Americans were the underdogs. Overdogs don't easily arouse our sympathy, and the British were in many ways the biggest overdogs the world has ever seen. I can't hope to go into the Empire's history in any detail, but a great way to start exploring this huge...
Sorry, Doctor. I'll go back 5 seconds so I can hear. That's a good point, in that if you sound very British, what does that mean, sound very British? How do I mean that? I mean, if you sound very British, like Rothschild, like if you Empire, then you sound really, really rich or upper class. And what was my point? I don't know.
The Empire's history in any detail, but a great way to start exploring this huge topic is via the sponsor of today's video, Blinkist. It's an
Please, guys, make sure, I'm pausing a lot, make sure any of Dr. Geoff's, right, videos, you have any of the sponsors, all right, and you're interested in it and you saw it here, please use his promo codes, his links.
I really like, enabling you to understand the most important things from thousands of non-fiction books and podcasts.
So I have enough time to get coffee.
15 minutes each, including Empire by Neil Ferguson, and I especially recommend William Dalrymple's The Anarchy, the East India Company, Corporate Violence, and the Pillage of an Empire.
As a child, Clive had been a violent bully. To keep him out of trouble in England, his father had sent him to India, where he developed a hatred for the country that would stay with him his whole life.
There are just so many books I want to read, and thanks to Blinkist, I can fit a huge range of information and entertainment into my everyday life. You can use it as a guide for choosing whole books to read, or a refresher on books you've already read. We all like sharing our enthusiasms, and there's a new feature, Blinkist Spaces, that actually lets you share titles with friends and family even if they don't have a subscription. I was a subscriber before Blinkist sponsored me, and you can get 25% off annual Blinkist Premium. Start a 7-day free trial by clicking the link in the description box. The American rebellion against an evil empire is said to have been a deliberate factor in director Irvin Kershner's mind when he was choosing actors and accents for The Empire Strikes Back.
I don't think we can predict two
the good guys are American.
Distance to power generators.
But this isn't the only factor involved in British accented villainy. Obviously, many of these villains aren't themselves British or representatives of empires. And Hollywood studios, mostly founded by Jewish immigrants from Central and Eastern Europe, who'd never been colonised by the British, have from their earliest days been extremely Brit-friendly.
Have you ever been kissed in the car before?
Johnny.
The happiest day of your life.
Tell me how many have left you since him.
I'll never be hungry again.
Besides, not all British accents have the same villainous ring. For example, as Tom Hiddleston points out in the Jaguar ad,
"This England."
We're not talking about Scotland.
Actually, I was just stealing their accent. Well, that's all right. That's what for show business is all about.
Hold together.
Those are the ties that bind.
Doesn't that bother you?
Even within England, there are less villainous accents, like Northern.
Oh, hello. Caught me with my hand in the biscuit tin.
We've come to a dangerous place.
Sean Bean.
We cannot fight a war amongst ourselves.
Not a Game of Thrones
or West
fan.
Country, more or less.
Blimey, is that the time? By rights, we shouldn't even be here.
Cockney-type accents can be quaint and cosy.
The rain in Spain.
Although it's an urban accent, and Hollywood can associate it with tough guys.
Here's what we do.
found out who our friend in the red suit is.
But of course, the villainous accent people have in mind is based on RP, received pronunciation. This accent came into existence after the loss of the American colonies, more or less simultaneously with what's sometimes called the Second British Empire. The Industrial Revolution had created a new class system, which combined with capitalism and colonialism to create a world-dominating social pyramid, with, phonetically speaking, RP at the top. Within the UK, this elite accent can function as a domestic accent of evil. As sociolinguist Peter Trudgill put it, RP speakers are perceived as soon as they start speaking as haughty and unfriendly by non-RP speakers, unless and until they are able to demonstrate the contrary. There's an old British tradition called pantomime, panto for short, musical plays put on at Christmas time for a family audience, from local amateur shows up to big budget productions. They're based on the kind of stories Disney has famously animated: Snow White, Peter Pan, Cinderella, Aladdin, etc. And it's a common tradition that the underdogs sound relatively local or low class, and the powerful villains speak something much more like RP.
Christmas is coming, and I hope you are all coming to the Malvern Theatre.
Join us on a magical adventure this Christmas at the Malvern Theatres from the 9th of December. Theatres.
I think it might not be just... I think it's just, you know, people, if they hear the protagonist as, you know, a very well-spoken, upper-class sounding person, it's probably just like... It may just seem like they have less of a hill to climb, and so maybe you won't be as behind them as much.
The Empire's phonetic pyramid still extends to many parts of the world, with accents described, as in Britain, as being relatively broad or strong in terms of how far away they are from received pronunciation. Australia, for example, is an independent country, but its accents are stratified by implicit reference to the ghost of RP. Even in the USA, there are traces, albeit marginal, of this kind of continuum, with higher class accents bearing more of a resemblance to RP. It's no accident that in Hollywood's great epic of the Old South, 3 of the 4 stars were Brits. The old upper-class accents of New England and New York had much more in common with RP than general American accents do.
As chairwoman of the reception committee, I welcome you with open arms.
Is that so? How late do you stay open?
And received pronunciation no doubt exerted an influence over American elocutionists and what some called American theatre standard.
Now let me hear you read your line.
Read.
And I can't stand him. And I can't stand him.
And I can't stand him.
Of course, all these continua can get quite complex, and as I've often pointed out, the standard southern British accent of today isn't what it was. To modern English ears, the high evolutionary's accent may just sound like neutral SSB, but to others he may sound British enough to be bad. It's a matter of degree.
British.
And when the whole milieu is English accented, you typically have to crank up the posh to get unsympathetic or evil. Conversely, the American insurance company Geico cranked down the poshness of their British accented gecko to make him more human.
I am a gecko, not to be confused with Geico, which could save you hundreds on car insurance.
No, I can't save you money on car insurance. You want Geico, not Gecko.
You should check out geico.com, get a free rate quote, online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
High-status villains typically have to be not just defeated, but mocked, ridiculed. And often the ridicule is foregrounded, with less of the evil or none at all. Posh folks can even use self-mockery for self-promotion. And of course the RP-type accent does actually have some relatively good associations. The authority of that empire-ruling accent can be played positively, say for mentorship.
The Force?
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things.
I wish none of this had happened.
So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide.
Crossing up wind, breaking from your numbers. If you can't learn to run with the pack, one of these days you'll be someone's dinner.
And I think there's a grey area between mentors and high-class servants.
Master Wayne.
Master Luke, sir, it's so good to see you fully functional again.
Good morning, sire.
Good morning, Zazu.
You did advertise for a nanny, did you not?
And admittedly, there is a small handful of weird cases where, against the odds, a Brit, complete with accent, somehow ended up in the lead role.
Maybe people like the idea that, like, their butler servant is... It's like they're their boss, and yet they have the accent. I'm reading too much into it, probably.
Space. The final frontier.
Now, what about Brits in Hollywood without the British accent? Does being British make you evil without actually sounding British? This is quite often claimed or implied, and people are quick to mention Hannibal Lecter, played by Anthony Hopkins, with some kind of American accent.
Silence of the Lambs. Great movie.
Brits have certainly played a lot of nasty Americans.
The healing power of the Grail is the only thing that can save your father now.
What happened to your boy was business.
You have a dog?
No, Helen.
Is that a raincoat? Yes, it is.
But they've also played lots of American good guys.
Rose Dawson.
Bruce Wayne. Slavery, sir. It's done.
However, there are a couple of character types or genres where I do think British actors have been chosen an awful lot, regardless of good or evil. One, as we've seen, is ancient or timeless worlds like Asgard, Middle-earth, and Westeros, or Westeros in American. I made a video about that and even got a mention in The Economist this week. Secondly, there's the real old world, Europe, and the wider world beyond the Anglosphere. American accents are naturally perceived as modern, and to American audiences, domestic as opposed to imported. Brits are, after all, foreign, and whether they like it or not, European. And so many genuine non-natives speak English on a British rather than an American model. These foreign speak English on a British rather than an American model. These foreign characters are quite often bad.
I'm going to count to 3.
Alan Rickman.
Until then,
if these demands are not met.
But not always.
Jeez.
I'm Ilya Kuryakin.
Indy, there is something that troubles me.
Is that genre's
The Ark.
No doubt Hollywood has been guilty of some crude stereotyping over the years, but let me end with a hopelessly wrong prediction that I made to myself years ago. This was that British English would become ever more marginalised in the world with the inexorable spread of American influence. Little did I know that the world would be bombarded with British voices from Wizards and Witches, Lord of the Rings, Pirates of the Caribbean, Game of Thrones, etc. Not to mention YouTube channels,
I'm Peppa Pig,
and international content on Netflix, etc. And all these British actors using their own accents when they're interviewed.
Does the Liverpool sneak in?
Not really, no. Slang words.
What?
Like slang words.
So many Americans are now far more clued up about British culture and British accents than ever before.
So, like, honestly, I saw this guy. Honestly, did like Michael cheat on me when he was in a beefer? He's like, I miss you or whatever, and I'm like, you miss me? You like, miss me? What am I, your mother?
Tony and I were in a beef. Miss me? What am I, your mother? That was great.
Thanks to Blinkist for sponsoring this video. To subscribe, check the link below.
I miss you or whatever. Miss me? What am I, your mother? Me and Tony were in a beef. Okay. Sorry. Love you guys. Hope you're all doing well. Great video once again from Dr. GF Lindsay here, right? And yeah, I hope you guys are doing well. I'd appreciate any comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.